Well, hello there, and welcome to the bathroom of the dollhouse for another reading from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and you Selfers for November 15th, the day of encounter. All right, and here at the top of the page is a visual representation of the day of encounter. Well, we have a rather interesting image. What is it? Boom. It's what I guess you'd call some Albert squirrels, and they're both holding a chessboard. I don't know if you can quite see what an Albert squirrel looks like, but they got like what you might call some bunny ears there. I don't know. I had to look that one up. In any event, is that an adequate representation of the day of encounter? Well, I would say that'd be an encounter if you happen to see some squirrels working on a chessboard, holding it up or whatever. But in any event, not altogether all too important about the visual representational image. Maybe we can make some kind of connotation as we get on with the read as to what that's supposed to signify. But again, not altogether all too important. What is important is it's November 15th and it's someone's birthday today. That's right. And so if your birthday is November 15th, I just want to say happy birthday. That's right. But hey, maybe this video finds you late. I don't know, days, weeks, months, as is often the case. You're a busy individual, I imagine. So no judgment there. And if that happens to be the case, I just want to say, I hope you had a happy birthday. All right. But for everyone else who's joining us out of curiosity or more ideally to celebrate the November 15th birthday, I just want to say hello, welcome, and I hope you enjoy yourself. Now, before we dive in with the redirect, something I like to do around these here parts, let's roll some dice. This is the DykASSt birthday broadcast, so I like to live up to the namesake, but I do so more importantly for synchronicity's sake. And here I rolled a 6 and a 3 for a 9. Now, what is synchronicity? You're probably wondering. Well, it's just you getting out in the world and letting the universe show you it's with you on your path. But you need a mutually agreed upon benchmark or a sign, if you like, with which to chase down and follow and look for. So what do you got? Boom. Your 3 and your 6 for a 9. Now, you can roll your own numbers. The intention's here for you with your 3, your 6, and your 9. But you can roll your own. Get your own little personal connection with the universe going. But it is, even if you go with my number, it's probably ideal you take your own set of dice. Ascribe directional values to number sets and for time limits with which to go in those directions. That's right. So wherever you start off from, you roll your direction, you roll your time limit, you get going. Once you reach the end of that time limit, will you stop, compose yourself, and you look for your numbers. That's right. You 3, you 6 for a 9 there. But maybe you don't see your numbers. You know, in that case, you need to look for things that are anomalous. You know, your Albert squirrels playing chess, if you like. But for sake of not seeing anything like that, maybe you just see a squirrel. Let's just say that. Let's start off simple. Maybe one crosses your path there and darts into a park. Well, you know what? Roll your dice, get a time value, follow that thing, or at least the direction it went. Maybe see where it went. Maybe it went up a tree, you know what I mean? Maybe you stop at the tree, look around a little bit, see what you see, and maybe you see something lying in the dirt there. I don't know. Maybe it's like one of them pocket chess sets. You know what I'm saying? That would be crazy. But you know what? Sometimes the day takes on a theme. And then, you know what? You start off again, roll your dice, directional value, time limit, get going. Maybe it leads you somewhere else. Maybe at the end of that time limit, you find yourself in front of a building with a 36 in the address, and maybe it just so happens to be some kind of game store. Well, hey, go in there, you know what I mean? It's got your number on it. Stop in there, the person asks you what you're doing. I'm just here for synchronicity. And they say, what are you talking about? And you go, well, maybe you show them this video, and they go, that's about crazy. And you go, you want to see crazy? I followed a squirrel, and I also found this pocket-sized chessboard. And you know what? Maybe they just happened to pull out $9 and give it to you. I don't know. Maybe the day takes on a little bit of a theme there, like I said, and it ends up just making you have a little bit of a influence of cash there. Who's to say? I don't know. It's your birthday. Get out there, have some fun. Or maybe it's a couple of days past your birthday. Who's to say? Make it up, right? Have some fun. See, taste, touch, feel the magic. That's all it's there for. But you know what? It's not about monetary gain in these circumstances. Maybe the guy just offered you the money and you go, hey, thanks, pal. Here it is. This is for you. I don't need the money. Maybe he closes up shop and goes out on this walk with you to see what he can see. That's right. You know what? Maybe you just made a new friend. Who's to say? But these things can line up for you, and usually for the better if you're out there to broaden your horizons. But I think you get the point. So let's dive in with the birthday read, shall we? Your month is November, your day the 15th, your sign is 22 to 24 degrees Scorpio of the Scorpio III period specifically. Your quality and elements is fixed water. All right, November 15th, the day of encounter. Those born on November 15th repeatedly face challenging life experiences and intense encounters with people, often people they have never even met before. Being prepared is thus a big item for those born on this day, whether it be in a general readiness for unforeseen circumstances or a conscious planning for scheduled events. November 15th people may be known as confrontational types because they rarely, if ever, avoid a challenge or back down in a disagreement for the sake of comfort or convenience. They are ready to stand up for themselves, and in addition, they are stalwart champions of those who need their protection. Yet they are also willing to walk away from pointless arguments or no-win situations that would only compromise their dignity. Their real strength lies in defense, with the threat of retaliation their most potent weapon. Others instinctively feel that these are people who, like a wasp's nest, are better left undisturbed. And most November 15 people can display great patience. They recognize the importance of waiting for the right moment to act and rarely miscalculate. To others, they may seem overly grave and measured, acting as if they believe that their whole life can come crashing down as the result of an error. Indeed, fear plays an important part in their prudence, for they know instinctively what to be realistically afraid of. Not surprisingly, November 15 people can make dangerous partners in love relationships. They are hardly lacking in charm or sophistication, but such attributes often hide a more volatile interior than anyone would ever suspect. This side of their character may be revealed suddenly and by surprise, occasioning great alarm. However, it also lends excitement and fire to their emotional range. November 15 people have a feeling for the apocalyptic. Either they expect the worst or at the very least have a good idea of what the worst can be. Explosions of all sorts seem to recur in their lives, and they themselves can be accused of erratic behavior. Perhaps it is simply that when November 15 people have to move, others must get out of the way. And with startling speed and secrecy, those born on this day are capable of appearing and disappearing like a will-o'-the-wisp in the night. And those who value security may be taking a chance choosing such a person for a love relationship. But those who like excitement may have found their mate. November 15 people often make an issue of honorable behavior. Yet the temptation for them to act otherwise can be overwhelming. Consequently, the twin issues of honesty and integrity figure strongly in their lives and raise internal battles which only they can fight. Guilt is not, however, especially troubling for them. Rather, not having been prepared properly for an eventuality bothers them far more. Well, all right. Hey, how about that for a pretty interesting, well-rounded birthday read? Let's dive in with some notes. I'd like to provide a little bit of a commentary on what we just read, maybe make some connotations with past days and such. But in any event, let's get into it. November 15, the day of encounter. Repeatedly facing challenging life experiences and intense encounters with people, often strangers, it said. And because of such cases, the reading relates a general sense of readiness being an essential tool to keep you prepared for unforeseen circumstance. The reading claims you're often seen as a confrontational individual, rarely backing down from a challenge or disagreement, perhaps owing to this general knowledge or acceptance of this influx of otherwise adverse experience. But if this is the reason, I think it's commendable. You rise to the occasion instead of letting such circumstances dog your spirit. And perhaps even more commendable, you champion those who need protection. All right. So it isn't just a spirit you employ for your own sake. That's commendable. Furthermore, you're also willing to walk away, which is huge, all right? Most of these qualities come with glaring setbacks on the other days if some of those through themes come through. But the recommended remedies for such things seem to be qualities you already employ. So, you know what? that's great, right? That said, the reading claims you're patient but influenced by a fear-based rather instinct, and apparently can make dangerous partners and relationships. All right, I'm assuming based on the more volatile aspects of your personality, otherwise hidden by your charm and sophistication, the likes of which these hidden volatile traits they aren't readily mentioned specifically in the read, but perhaps it's this erratic or explosive behavior that comes with how you respond to this feeling of the apocalyptic. I would have to assume. It doesn't really say. No judgment on my part. One could argue it's these facets in general that lend toward your ability to affect and realize other trademark strengths. Very well could be, right? And as the reading also related, there are people that find that exciting anyway. So, hey, you know what? You don't necessarily need to change. Just it's good to be aware of, right? That being said, the reading claims you have your own self-defined ideas of honor, integrity, and guilt, which you personally battle with. So, all things being considered, with the breakdown and how you essentially define and shape the world in your own terms, perhaps the encounter that's mentioned in the title there is with you. All right. I like that. I don't typically have a good way of ending those things, but I like that. Perhaps the encounter they mention is with you. All right. That's been your breakdown of what I had to say about it. So let's dive in with your numbers and your planets. All right. Those born on the 15th day of the month are ruled by the number 6, as 1 + 5 = 6, and also by the planet Venus. Those ruled by number 6 tend to attract admiration and even inspire worship. However, for November 15 people, the dual influence of Venus and Pluto, Scorpio's ruler, can produce all sorts of dangerous and disturbing elements, albeit exciting and enticing in their love life specifically. In this respect, they should be aware of addictive, particularly sexually addictive, it says in parentheticals, tendencies. All right, this is a rather sparse numbers and planets entry. They're usually a sentence or two more, and they didn't even go over the Mars influence there, but I think I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's dive into it, shall we? All right, the number 6 and Venus with a tendency to attract admiration and worship from your number 6 there. But the Venus-Pluto dynamic can produce dangerous and exciting, or enticing rather, elements. Again, attractive to some people. Though I imagine there'd be a bit of a conflict if the people you're attracted to are the secure types, right? Who hate that kind of volatility. But they don't call it conflict for no reason. You know, one of those complicated relationships, right? But I just thought it was interesting. What if you were attracted to the secure type, but it's the people you excite who are drawn to the volatility? It's like, man, that'd be an issue there. Any event, Mars surprisingly gets no mention as a Scorpio co-ruler. And I relate that as the Mars-Venus dynamic usually relates such a famous contrast of results or influences and character traits. Also seem to speak to the explosive nature it's claimed that you possess. But perhaps this Pluto-Venus dynamic present on the day is more important. I couldn't say, but I found it a glaring omission because that Mars-Venus dynamic is so famous, right? Why wouldn't they bring that up? Any event, maybe Pluto overshadows that with its dark natures and tendencies. But surprisingly, they didn't really mention much of that either, because Pluto can have very dramatic dour effects on certain Scorpio folks. Here, I didn't see that so much, at least so far as the reading was going, but maybe that explains things for you. You're like, man, my life's just got so many shadowy elements. That might just be Pluto there. And the aggressive tendencies might just be Mars. And they didn't really mention that there. But in any event, I think you get the point. There's my little spin on it, if you like. So let's move on to your tarot. That's right, one of the more eclectic of the New Age metaphysical ideologies. But hey, we don't have to take it home with us. We'll start dealing out the cards to inspire our moves and movements. But hey, you know what? It's your birthday, so let's do something fun. Let's dive into it. Maybe it just so happens to inform a little bit of your birthday, add a little bit more context to things. So let's get into it. The 15th card of the major arcana is the devil. That's right. Who indicates a fear-desire dynamic working where sexual attraction, irrationality, and passion are concerned. The devil holds us slave through our need for security and money, and he represents our base nature grasping for security. He controls us through the irreconcilable differences which exist in our male-female nature. And the positive side of this card is sexual attraction and the expression of passionate desires. But the card reminds us that although we are bound to our bodies, our spirits are free to soar. And November 15, people must beware of calling up physical challenges which they are unable to handle. All right, the devil. Okay, let's see what I had to say here. The devil, a once-a-month card, okay, for a fear-desire dynamic with sexual attraction, rationality, and passion being a concern there, where it's kind of driving those things up for you. There's also a concern for being held slave to baser desires and security there. Reminders of what you're capable in spirit, regardless of your trappings here on earth, if you like. And for someone maybe not sure of themselves on the inside, but proving more than capable on the outside, I think this card is quite apt if we're to consider your actions and the manifestations as your expression of passion is concerned. I don't know. I think it also kind of spoke to that Mars-Venus duality because they brought up the male-female polarity aspect. So, I still feel like it's a glaring omission that they didn't bring up Mars. But in any event, I thought it was pretty interesting. They examined that inner and outer duality there. And maybe you're a little bit lacking on the inside, that self-nature there. Any event, all things to consider. Just more stuff to append to your birthday breakdown there. But in any event, that's been your tarot. Let's move on with your health. All right, your health. Those born on November 15 may have to rethink their emotional stance. By provoking confrontations or threatening, even unspoken, says in parentheticals, retaliation, they can put themselves under enormous stress. And since those born on this day may be accident and violence prone, they should not only take more care than most when in physical motion, but also consider what it is that their makeup which occasions such incidents. And as far as diet is concerned, the eating of a great deal of red meat is not a good idea. And sugar intake should be kept within reasonable limits. Grains such as rice, wheat, or pasta, and corn should be stressed. Hearty foods such as breads, vegetable soups, and stews are likewise recommended. Vigorous exercise can be helpful in working off excess energy and aggression, but care should be taken with competitive sports and martial arts. All right, let's see what I had to say about your health here. They really drilled down on the diet, didn't they? Give consideration to emotions and provoking confrontation. Ease up on your passions if you like, or don't like, more properly. Stress and psychological issues often plague Scorpios by manifesting in physical ailments. Might not apply to you specifically, they didn't mention it, but I'd argue that it's justifiable in relating as much for you to consider. Yeah, because it's just been mentioned really heavily in all the previous Scorpio days. But they didn't get into it. Instead, they drilled down on your diet, discouraging red meat and sugar, encouraging grains and hearty foods, and vigorous exercise to work off aggression. So there's so many Mars dynamics here. The red meat, the avoiding vigorous sports and like the combative sports, if you like. So it's, again, a glaring omission that they didn't bring up Mars. Maybe something to note. You might want to look into some Mars influences there if you're interested. But it's the first day in some time also to focus on the diet and exercise. Because like I said, they've been really keen to drill down on the psychological influences. So I mentioned a little bit of that for you there, how it can lead to internal ailments. But again, they drilled down on your diet, so maybe take note. Where they get those ideas, I'm not quite sure. But again, just something to be mindful of. So that's been your health. Let's move on to some advice. All right, your advice. Here we go. Psychological training is important to you. Reorient your regressive impulses or fears and try not to become threatened so easily. Be more self-assured. Gentleness and kindness may be indications of strength. All right, there's your advice. I think there's a lot of value in that, if I'm being honest here. So here we are with the psychological training that I mentioned there. They were able to squeeze it in. So reorient impulses and fears. Hey, I'd say that's huge. Turn negatives into positives is what I say. I've had to say that the past few days with some of the follow-through themes there. I think that kind of relates to that. Kindness, an indication of strength. Hey, you might poo-poo it, kindness and all of that. Might think it's lame, but you know what? I think there's value in it. It's at least worth trying out. Maybe you already think you're kind. There's the other thing too. We might already think we're doing that. But you know what? Take an objective stance back, kind of look at yourself from the outside. Maybe there's ways we can improve upon it. Who's to say? But you know what? Maybe we're not lacking in that in any event. Just something to be mindful of in any event. In any event. I'm saying that all the time. Something to be mindful of in any matter. How's that? Anyway, there's been your advice. I keep saying that. Let's move on to your meditation. Your meditation. All right. Non-movement can be the most challenging stance. All right. Pretty interesting. Once again, non-movements can be the most challenging stance. Okay, hey, there's been your meditation. It's your birthday, your meditation. I'm not going to try to interpret it for you, throw some spin on it. That's for you to consider and take some value from, I would hope. But in any event, your meditation in the can, as it were. Let's move on to your strengths and your weaknesses. That's right. Let's do the work. Let's hold up that objective mirror that it says that you're so capable of holding up, but only on yourself. Maybe you're the encounter, right? Okay, your strengths. You're measured, you're just, and you're courageous. All right. But your weaknesses, that's right. Let's spin that objective mirror and look through the side that blows things up. Shows us all the blemishes, if you like, or don't like. Your weaknesses, you only got 2 instead of 3. You're volatile, and you're accident prone. All right. They really didn't drill down on accident prone all that much, but it must be important. And volatile, they said. You know what? They kind of mentioned those little setbacks you have that excite other people but give other people pause. Maybe that's it. Volatility. But you know what? You're measured, you're just, and you're courageous. I'd say those are all things you can use to get over your weaknesses, for sure. So you know what? Strengths and weaknesses, we got these. All right, and with that being said, let's move on to those born on this day. And when we dive into those born on this day, I like to examine something that I find important. And that's not just the people who share your company, but I think one of the more important things in our lives is figuring out our passions. And I say that because too often I get out and meet folks and ask them what they do, and more importantly, if they like it. And they generally don't. And who can blame them? Get out of school right into a job, that the first one to come across your desk there. And it's not necessarily something you like, but it's something to help you get the money coming in, right? Keep the roof over your head and food on a table. Keep them bed sheets clean, right? And so, you know what? You start finding yourself going up the corporate ladder. You've got things figured out. It's easy. You roll out of bed, you're there to work. It's just all routine. But you know what? Something's lacking. And what is that? You aren't doing backflips out of bed to get into your job. Well, maybe for some of you. Maybe some of you other folks have it figured out. But for those of you who don't, or those of you, because it takes time to put into work to figure out our passions, I've found. And so I think this is the perfect opportunity to maybe take some inspiration from other folks, those who have somehow put their stamp on things and at least gotten the book, right? They've gotten some kind of notoriety. Maybe those things weren't their passions, but maybe you can take some inspiration from it. If anything, maybe me just putting the bug in your ear will help stir the fires. So let's get into it, all right? Those born on this day. We have Sir William Herschel, the German-British astronomer, and he discovered the planet Uranus, or Uranus if you like. I prefer that one. We have Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox, and a German World War II field marshal, and battled Montgomery in North Africa, and involved in the plot to assassinate Hitler, it says. And it also says suicide. Hey, you know what? Sometimes there's negatives in here. But moving on, we have Georgia O'Keeffe, a painter, J.G. Ballard, a British short story writer and a novelist of Empire of the Sun. We have Yaphet Kotto, film actor, Daniel Barenboim, or Bohm perhaps, British pianist, conductor, and married to cellist Jacqueline Dupreez. We also have Avril Harriman, financier, the Truman Commerce Secretary, and also a New York governor and a diplomat. A real Renaissance man, it sounds like. We have Howard Baker, the U.S. Senator, and a Reagan Chief of Staff. Veronica Lake, film actress. We also have Curtis LeMay, Air Force General of the Strategic Air Command. He was the head of that outfit there. I went to the museum for that over there in Nebraska. Pretty interesting place. We also have Joseph Wapner, a judge, war hero, TV personality of the People's Court. We also have Ed Asner, the TV actor, Kevin Eubanks, the jazz guitarist and band leader of the Tonight Show fame, if I'm not wrong, Jay Leno era. We also have Petula Clark, British singer, Sam Waterston, stage and film actor of Law and Order fame, I believe. We also have Francesco Razzi, Italian film director of Lucky Luciano fame. We also have Montavani, just one word, Montavani, conductor and an arranger. Andrew Marvell, British 17th century metaphysical poet. I've never heard of that before. Wayne Theobald, a painter. We also have Grand Duchess Olga, the Russian empress and wife of Nicholas II, and executed in a revolution. You know what? We didn't have any jazz saxophonists today. That's the second day we haven't had a jazz saxophonist. Seems like every day we get a jazz saxophonist. In any event, that's not altogether too important, but it essentially rounds out your birthday read. Except to say, your season is fall, your sign is Scorpio, and your period, once again, is Scorpio 3. Your quality and elements is fixed water. Hopefully you took some kind of inspiration from the folks that were mentioned. If anything, we found out who shares your company, right? Or at the very least, got the bug in your ear to figure out your passions. But you know what? Maybe you already know what those are. Maybe you got some kind of inspiration on how to make it financially viable so you can get out of the job you might not necessarily like. That's right. Hey, it's important that we enjoy ourselves in this life, I would argue. But in any event, that has been November 15th, the day of encounter. That's right. Maybe the encounter is with you. I like that. In any event, this has been The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and Ust Elfers. I have an affiliate link for this book down in the description if you're interested in diving in further with other folks' birthdays, your zodiac periods, your zodiac propers. There's a affiliate link, like I said, save you the trouble having to type it in a browser, and it supports the channel in the bargain too, which I appreciate. But that being said, that's not altogether important. What is important, once again, wishing you a happy birthday. That's right. So, happy birthday. But for everyone else who joined us randomly or to celebrate November 15th birthday, hey, I hope you enjoyed yourself, all right? And you join us for your birthday read. But lest I forget, what else is important? Boom, your daily numbers, your 3 and your 6 for a 9. Get out there, see, taste, touch, and feel the magic. And if you do, I think you'll see why I recommended it. Something interesting. Make sure we see what's in front of us, but maybe we weren't even noticing. That's right. So once again, happy birthday. Take care of yourselves.